Hello everyone. My name is Hamoud Al-Utaibi. I am a senior advisor at the Ministry of Energy of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. I'm also one of the four co-leads of the Carbon Capture, Utilization and Storage Initiative under the SIM. And it's my pleasure to introduce today's CCUS event at the 12th Clean Energy Ministerial Meeting. The CCUS initiative has 12 government members and we collaborate to accelerate CCUS together. We provide a platform for government, industry, and finance sector to come together to advance CCUS. We also work to identify new investment opportunities and to share knowledge and best practice from government policy and project development. Many different organizations are today interested in carbon capture, ranging from government, the financial sector, all the way to various different industries. At today's event, the SIM CCUS initiative will bring you a series of testimonies from a number of interesting organizations. We have asked them all to give us a short 3 to 4 minutes testimony on why CCUS is important for them and how they can help make progress. We will first hear from Mr. Yang Bing Zai, Energy Sector Chief of the Asian Development Bank. Mr. Zai will tell us how a development finance institution can help advance carbon capture, particularly in the developing Asia. Following Yang Bing, we will hear from Beth Valyahu, Vice President for Strategy and Stakeholder Relations at the International CCS Knowledge Centre in Canada. Beth will tell about cost reduction potential with next large-scale projects. Following Beth, we will hear from Mr. Allard Castelline, CEO of the Port of Rotterdam. Mr. Castelline will tell us how large port can catalyze a whole CCUS hub by combining several emission sources. Our fourth intervention is by the whole leadership group of the Global Cement and Concrete Association, including the CEO, Ms. Diana MacLeod. They will outline how the cement sector is advancing carbon capture, which in many cases is the only available technology to achieve deep emission reductions. And our fifth and final intervention is by Fiona Wild, Vice President of Sustainability and Climate Change at BHP. Fiona will give us a viewpoint of a large integrated resources company and what carbon capture can do for their sustainability. We hope these short interventions will give you some interesting insight into how very different organizations view CCUS and why it's important for them. I will see you at the end of the program with some key takeaways from these testimonies. We hope you will enjoy this event with us.
Dear colleagues, it's my pleasure to join this meeting virtually and share my views on CCUS from Asian Development Bank's perspective. As you know, Asian Development Bank, or ADB, is a multilateral development bank based in Manila. Development is at the core of all our activities carried out by ADB. Tackling climate change, building climate and disaster resilience, and enhancing environmental sustainability is one of the key operational priorities for ADB under its Strategy 2030. ADB has supported our member countries on wind, solar, geothermal energy from very early stages through policy support, capacity building, and project implementation to access clean and green energy. CCUS is the only group of technologies to reducing emissions in key sectors directly and to removing CO2 to balance emissions that cannot be avoided. This is a critical part of reaching net zero target. ADB has created a dedicated CCUS fund since 2009. We thank our development partners for support in helping us to establishing this CCUS fund. So far, With this CCUS fund, ADB has been working on grant-based assistance, which covered policy formulation, capacity building, pilot project, and study tours for learning. Technical assistance we use to assist our member countries in creating knowledge infrastructures like 3 centers of excellence on CCUS in China and Indonesia. Considering the very specialized nature of the technology, ADB has been cautious about assisting only those countries that have the appetite and the capacity to absorb and deploy CCUS technologies. So far, ADB has worked with China, Indonesia, India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Mongolia, Philippines, Thailand, and Vietnam on CCUS. ADB has worked on a number of technical assistance, knowledge product, and meetings to support CCUS with the support of CCUS fund. For example, we prepared a roadmap for carbon capture, storage, demonstration, and deployment in China, and this roadmap is currently being updated. Prospect for carbon capture and storage in Southeast Asia is another knowledge product. CCUS ready study for Jamshoro power plant in Pakistan and capacity building exercise were conducted. And we have another study, CCUS readiness study on proposed coal to liquid plant in Mongolia. Outputs of this knowledge work are available in the public domain, and stakeholders are welcome to review and learn from this product and share your feedback with us so we can further improve. With the development of CCUS technology, the decrease of cost and change of climate change mitigation concerns, I hope our CCUS activities can move more towards large-scale pilot projects, including CCUS in hard-to-decarbonize sectors like steel, cement, and refineries, CO2 utilization project, creation of common CO2 pipeline infrastructure, and of course, storage of CO2. For this large-scale pilot project to happen, we need to get the right policy and regulations in place. We need tax credit, carbon trading schemes, carbon taxes. And those measures that have helped to scale up, expand solar and wind power so successfully should be also deployed for CCUS. As a development institute, ADB will be very keen to work with our member countries to help them to tailoring CCUS project policies suitable for their long-term low-carbon transition. ADB has already worked with China and Indonesia in this regard, and we are open to discuss with other countries in the region. Lastly, let me say that climate change is a global issue that needs a global solution and participation. And it's very clear that without CCUS technologies, we cannot achieve the carbon neutrality target. Therefore, it is important that the new low-carbon technologies like CCUS should be made part of every country's low-carbon transition strategy, so to deploy CCUS in developing countries. Rapid transfer of technologies will help in the reduction of GHG emissions. And with the scale of Asia, the market scale of Asia, we hope that the cost of CCUS technology can be lowered and benefit then other regions of the world. ADB will be happy to continue its role as a strong supporter of CCUS for capacity building and for project deployment in Asia in close coordination with our global partners. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Beth Hardy-Vallejo. I'm the Vice President of Strategy and Stakeholder Relations at the International CCS Knowledge Centre. I'm really happy to be here talking to you today about carbon capture, utilization, and storage. You know, I'm an environmental lawyer, and figuring out how climate change impacts are happening across the world and what we can do in our clean energy systems to solve that is something I'm very passionate about. That's why I work here at the International CCS Knowledge Centre. We actually house the engineers that built the world's first post-combustion carbon capture and storage facility at Boundary Dam, Saskatchewan. It's a mouthful, but carbon capture, utilization, and storage is proven technology. It hasn't reached scale around the world yet, and we're hoping that our organization can help to accelerate the deployment of this very crucial technology, which is only one of the many tools in the toolbox that we need to meet our climate ambitions. The Boundary Dam facility is significant. It's been operating for 5 years and currently is the only CCS on power in the world. I think it's really important to note that as we look to get to net zero targets, we can't start from ground zero. And it's projects that have pioneered the way, like Boundary Dam, the Shell Quest project, Petronova in the States, and many others that can help guide the next generation of projects. One of the big barriers to carbon capture and storage, people say, is cost. And so we're looking at innovative ways for government financing, tax incentives, and other things that can help get that economic risk remedied so that we can deploy this technology more readily. One of the things that I think is important when we outlay public dollars is to ensure that there's public knowledge about these projects so that the next projects, again, don't start from scratch, but also the cost can come down through iterations. We actually took our learnings from the Boundary Dam plant, went just 2 kilometers down the road to look at another facility called Shand. It's 2 million tons, so doubling the size of the Boundary Dam capacity to capture a year. And in doing so, economies of scale, modularization, and those lessons learned actually see the cost come down about 67%. That's going to be a significant step change. But we need to go beyond coal to other industries. That's why the International CCS Knowledge Centre is looking to the cement industry, where we're currently working on a facility feasibility study in Edmonton, Canada, to have 780,000 tons captured a year. We're hoping that project has shovels in the ground by 2026. There are ways to get these projects in the ground before 2030. We need government support. We need financiers as part of this, and we need to bridge that gap because this is a crucial technology. And I know that if we share lessons learned and we work together, we can have a clean energy future that's going to be significant and helping with those climate change impacts into the future. Thank you so much for having me as part of the Clean Energy Ministerial today, and I look forward to working with you in the future.
Ladies and gentlemen, firstly, I would like to thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk to you about the Rotterdam Portals project. The concept of the project is actually quite simple. It is based on the fact that Rotterdam has a large industrial cluster with various refineries, a large chemical industry, and several power plants. The port area, therefore, has a large concentration of CO2 emissions, totaling around 22 megatons last year. This concentration of industries is a huge advantage because it makes it more attractive to invest in infrastructure for the energy transition in a location like this than for standalone plants. So in Rotterdam, we are investing in new infrastructure for residual heat and hydrogen, as well as for CO2. The port area is around 40 kilometers long. The concept of the Portals project is to construct a common carrier pipeline for CO2 through the port. This is public infrastructure, built and operated by us, together with 2 other Dutch companies that have the state as a shareholder. This pipeline will run more or less along the premises of the private enterprises in the port. These companies can deliver their CO2 to Portals. They pay a fee per ton, and Portals then transports the CO2 to an empty gas field 20 kilometers offshore. By setting up a public common carrier system that will be used by several companies, the investment and operational costs are less than would otherwise have been the case. And perhaps more importantly, CCS is not a core activity of these companies, so they're happy for us to look after their CO2. Now, this is not to say that this is an easy project. It involves many companies and public authorities, which all need to work together and depend on each other to take the next steps. But we are steadily advancing towards implementing the Portals project. And this is mainly because everybody recognizes that CCS is necessary and that there are many advantages to cooperate in this area. 4 companies have now committed to delivering 2.5 megatons of CO2 for a period of 15 years, totaling 37 megatons of CO2. The companies involved are Shell, ExxonMobil, Air Liquide and Air Products. The national government makes up the difference between the ETS, which is the price of CO2 emission rights in Europe, and the actual cost of CCS. So companies do not suffer a competitive disadvantage, and the government can achieve its climate goals at an affordable price. We are therefore making the progress necessary and getting closer to FID all the time. FID is now planned for early next year, and at the same time, we're convinced that this is just the first CCS project that we will implement in this way. We are in close contact with other companies in Rotterdam, as well as elsewhere in the Netherlands, Germany and Belgium, to discuss opportunities for them to use the portal system as well. It is my sincere conviction that CCS is necessary to fight climate change and that cooperation between private enterprises and governments is a key condition for starting such projects. Thank you for your attention.
Concrete is vital for our modern world. It underpins our society, providing everything from safe homes, transport networks, cities and communities, and the renewable energy sources we need to thrive. Its strength, durability, versatility, and resilience make it the ideal building material, essential to meeting the demand for critical infrastructure as our global population grows and continues to urbanize.
Over the last 3 decades, the cement industry has reduced its emissions by nearly a fifth, and in 2020, the leading cement and concrete producers committed to achieving carbon-neutral concrete by 2050, in line with global climate targets. Later this year, we will publish a 2050 roadmap to carbon-neutral concrete, which will set out the pathway, levers and milestones to achieving this goal. Reducing emissions during cement manufacture will be essential, as will be driving material efficiency in the design, use and reuse of concrete.
But we know that ultimately, some of the carbon dioxide will need to be captured, reused if possible, or stored as required. This will play a crucial part of achieving our carbon neutral goal, enabling us to ensure emissions do not enter the atmosphere. CCUS technology works. Live pilots, projects and announcements are picking up pace across our industry in North America, Asia and Europe.
The next goal is to scale up and be ready to deploy the technology by 2030.
But the industry cannot do it alone. We need to work with governments, stakeholders and the investment community to help transform the sector worldwide. As the technology continues to develop, it is essential that policies support acceleration as well as help mitigate risks through investment. Additionally, when CO2 is captured, numerous industries will need a working transport and storage infrastructure, and this is a vital role for governments. We are excited to see CCUS technology develop and fully contribute to building the sustainable world of tomorrow.
Hola, mi nombre es Fiona Wild, Vice President, Sustainability and Climate Change at BHP. Resources are fundamental to the way we live now and will live in the future. BHP produces many of the commodities that will enable a low-carbon transition. Iron ore and metallurgical coal to make the steel necessary for wind turbines and other decarbonisation infrastructure. And copper and nickel for electrification and the batteries that will drive it. But while we continue to deliver these vital commodities, we must do it in a way that reduces greenhouse gas emissions. BHP has set science-based emissions reduction targets to achieve our goal of net zero operational emissions by 2050. And we're taking action to achieve these targets, for example, by switching to renewable energy at all of our Chilean operations and investing in technologies to reduce emissions from our truck fleet. But we also want to reduce emissions across our value chain, and that's where carbon capture and storage presents a huge opportunity. Carbon capture and storage is a fascinating technology that has the potential to significantly reduce emissions from a whole range of different activities, from power generation to oil and gas production and cement and steel production. And we know from the IPCC's 1.5 degrees report that we won't get to 2 degrees, let alone 1.5, without CCS. It's vital to achieving our global net zero goal. The vast majority of emissions in BHP's value chain come from our customers' processing of iron ore and metallurgical coal to make steel. And unlike power generation, this process is very hard to decarbonise. So we're working in partnership with our customers to provide them with the best quality raw materials, to improve blast furnace efficiency using hydrogen and oxygen injection, and to use carbon capture and storage to reduce carbon dioxide from the process. We've already announced 3 partnerships with steelmakers in China and Japan, and we're committed to supporting the sector to achieve its target of a 30% reduction in emissions intensity by 2030. We've also invested in direct air capture, an important negative emissions technology that can draw down carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. Collaboration like this across sectors is key. BHP is a member of the Global CCS Institute, the UK Government's Council on Carbon Capture Usage and Storage, and the Sustainable Markets Initiative. We established the International CCS Knowledge Centre and continue to fund research and development on CCS. And we'll continue to advocate for policy settings that accelerate CCS commercialisation at scale and acceptable cost. There's no easy way to achieve a net zero world, but without CCS, it gets a lot harder. We'll continue to support the development and deployment of this critical technology, and we encourage others to do the same.
Ladies and gentlemen, colleagues, many thanks for joining us today at this series of testimony on carbon capture utilization and storage. We heard from a large development finance institution, from a knowledge organization, from a large board, from a cement industry, and from a large resources company. It is great to see how such a variety of organizations are all today actively bringing CCUS as part of their low carbon portfolios. I would like to offer 3 short synthesis points from these testimonies. First, industries and organizations across several sectors are more and more interested in advancing CCUS because they see that it is a vital part of their decarbonization portfolio. It is also clear from these interventions that providing the necessary infrastructure and strategic CCUS hubs is critical for the success of deployment. Second, all interventions also stress that the time to act is now. Finance institutions and industries are ready to act now if the conditions are right for investment. We clearly hear a sense of urgency. CCUS can be, and in fact is, a solution that must be deployed today. Third, we have also heard a loud and clear call for increased collaboration between government, industry, and finance sector. Investing in CCUS is a 3-legged stool, and all these key actors have their distinct and important role to play. At the CCUS initiative, we remain very keen to provide a central platform for collaboration by all relevant stakeholders. I would like to thank our colleagues who provided the statements today. Thank you for your collaboration and leadership that you show both within your own industries and more widely. I also thank the government of Chile for putting together such an amazing clean energy festival during this week. And finally, to you in the audience today, thank you very much for your time and interest. Please get in touch with our initiative if you want to learn more and engage. Goodbye all, and stay safe.